Thanks for joining me for another 21 for 21 interview. And this time we're heading to the USA to speak to two-time Paralympic swimming medalist and multiple world champion, Mallory Weggemann. Hi, Mallory. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Sort of getting used to this lockdown period. So tell us, describe to us exactly where you are and how things are going in terms of lockdown for you.
Yeah, so I'm in the States. I'm in Minnesota, which is right in the middle of the country on the northern border. We border with Canada, if you're not familiar with the geography of all the states. So things are going well here. In the US, it's interesting because it's all state by state lockdowns. So we are still shelter in place in Minnesota, as most states in the US are. And we've been this way since. Well, I always mark it with when my last training session was, which was on a Tuesday about 5 weeks ago now. I feel like all the days kind of blur together. It's like one big Groundhog's Day that just keeps going the same thing over. But yeah, we're staying well.
And you're having to stay inside? Are you allowed out for certain reasons?
Yeah, so for the most part, I've stayed in. My husband's been the one that's done our errands, like if we need to go to the grocery store, things like that. We'll go for walks with our dogs. So I've been getting actual fresh air. And, we live in the suburbs, so we're really fortunate to have a yard and a deck and a front porch. So we have plenty of areas to get outside and get fresh air. But actual going out into public spaces, my husband's been the one doing those runs, and I've been kind of staying hunkered down. So,
and we don't want to get too heavy or political, but how do you feel about the approach a certain somebody has been taking in charge of you guys?
I think maybe a laugh says it all. I don't know. That's always a tough one to answer, but I know that there's a lot of people elsewhere around the world that look at us with interesting comments and remarks at times, but I am very proud of how our local governor has been handling it. So, there has been some good with this. We've seen some incredible governors step up, like the New York governor, the mayor of LA, and the California governor. So we've seen a lot of really great leadership amidst some of this chaos as well, too.
Very diplomatic. Let's focus on the sport. So people may not know, but you won a gold and a bronze here in London 2012. But tell us about how hard you had to work just to get to the Rio Games a few years back.
Yeah, so London was my entree into the Paralympic movement as a games. It was my first games, and I mean, oh my goodness, it will forever hold a special place in my heart. You guys did such an amazing job hosting. And then obviously coming away with a gold and bronze medal at my first games will forever make it memorable. But Rio was very different for me. It was an incredible games in so many ways. And in some, I would honestly call it my most successful games, even though I didn't medal. It took a lot of fight to get there, though. I had a really nasty arm injury to my left arm 2 years into that 4-year quad, so in 2014. And I thought about retiring. I was out of the water completely for about 6 months, and I just didn't really see a path back in. It felt like all the odds were stacked against me. And, then I got rid of my pity party and had a moment and realized I'm a Paralympic athlete. What we do is adapt. And as a Paralympian, it would be kind of silly to retire because of an injury. Like, it kind of goes against what the movement is. We're all kind of here because of something, right? And so we decided to fight for that dream. And between my husband and my parents and family and my coach and trainers and just what I call my tribe, we fought really hard for Rio. And I think that's why I'm so proud of it, because while I didn't, leave Rio with a medal, I realized that the movement in sport is about so much more than winning and losing. It's about that journey getting there. And I know that I left Rio in a way that I have no regrets whatsoever. I mean, I left everything in that pool. There wasn't a single thing I think I could have done differently in the lead up to it. We fought with everything we had for that dream. And ultimately I got to represent Team USA at a second games and be at the Paralympics. And now I get to call myself a 2-time Paralympian. So it was a tough journey, but I'm incredibly proud of it.
And when you take yourself back to that last training session, what, 5 weeks ago you said, or maybe let's rewind a little bit further. Let's take you back to the end of 2019, before any of this virus was on the agenda. Where do you think you were in terms of preparation and winning a place in the US team for Tokyo?
Yeah, I was sitting in a really great place as we ended 2019. I won 2 golds and a silver at the World Championships in London in the fall. And, you know, I think for me, I looked at it as that was really my first time on a major international podium since the London 2012 games. And so I hadn't, really internationally won a race in 7 years, but yet I still stuck with that dream. And so I think for me, just personally, there was a lot of gratification in knowing that I didn't give up when it got hard. And after Rio, it got even harder than it was going into Rio. I was pulled for a year and a half. I was completely out of competition for 2 years. I had 2 major surgeries. Like it was a really rough road after Rio. And so to come back from that yet again and decide, no, this is what I want and I'm fighting for it. And to be in London at Worlds and see that all come together was just that moment for me of realizing, like, this is why you fought for it. And for me, it became so much more than just purely, swimming and winning a gold medal. It really was that sense of journey that I had going into Rio, and, seeing my parents and my coach and my husband in the stands and knowing that we had a community and I was representing something so much bigger than me. And so I ended 2019 and I was jazzed. I was like, all right, I'm ready for Tokyo. This is probably the first time in 8 years I've felt ready for competition in this way. And then things took a little bit of a change, not just for obviously myself, but for our entire world, which has been, I think, hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around.
So what was your reaction then to the year-long postponement? Because there'd been a bit of to and fro, and maybe for understandable reasons. Obviously, the IOC, the IPC were trying to give it as long as possible before they had to make a decision. But it's come out as a year postponement, and how are you feeling about that?
At first it was an array of emotions. I was really sad when I first found out. I was grateful we weren't talking cancellation. I always preface with that because I do believe that was probably on the table. And so I'm incredibly grateful that Tokyo wasn't just canceled altogether, and it is in fact postponed. But there was that element of, while I was relieved that we were taking the right steps to do what we needed to do as a movement to protect our communities and our athletes and everybody involved in this, there was also, I think, just that element of personal heartbreak. My husband and I, we planned our wedding around the Rio 2016 games. So we got married after Rio, and that was kind of always the plan. Let's get through Rio, come home, have a few months, finish planning the wedding, and get married in December. And then after we got married, when we realized Tokyo was still this dream and I had been out for surgeries, we started kind of doing that math and realizing that there's no way we could try to have a family before Tokyo. And so then we put kids on the back burner till after Tokyo. And the last handful of months, it's been that excitement of, oh my goodness, we're less than a year out from being able to hopefully try to start a family, or, each month it gets closer, not only to Tokyo, it was being closer to that idea of us starting some of that next phase of our life. And transparently, I'm so ready to be a mom, and I'm so excited for that journey for my husband and I. And so I think when I initially found out, that's where just the complete and utter heartbreak hit, because it was that realization that as a 31-year-old female athlete, here I am putting that dream of a family on the back burner yet again for my career. And I've gladly done it. My husband and I have made that decision together, and we are committed to the Tokyo Games, whether that's happening in 2020 or 2021. We have devoted this much to it already. We're in it for the long haul, but I think there's just that realization of, as athletes, we sacrifice so much for our careers, and sometimes that becomes a little overwhelming.
And in terms of that sacrifice, obviously a key part of that is keeping fit, keeping your technique. How much of that are you able to do in this period? I guess the fitness is perhaps a bit more straightforward. I mean, how on earth do you go about trying to keep any sense of swimming technique whilst you're not presumably able to swim at all.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, it's interesting. I remember my last workout with my coach, and it was actually on a Monday. I had just gotten home. We as Team USA were on team camp down in Florida, and we got the news that we were getting sent home early from team camp back to our respective homes as the travel restrictions were starting to come down. And so I got home, and that Monday, my gym where I swim was still open, and so was my strength facility. And so my coach, Steve, and we did a swimming session, and I just remember there was a repeat of hundreds in there, and I was swimming pretty fast. And Steve's like, Mal, it's Monday. You need to chill out. And I was like, well, I don't know when the next time I'm going to have water is, so I'm going after it today. And he's like, just don't ruin yourself for the week. And I was like, okay, Mr. Optimistic, I'm glad you think we have a pool this week, but I don't think we're going to. And so him and I always have like our very respectful kind of little banter back and forth. And we went to his family's house, my husband and I, that evening for dinner. We're close with his wife and 3 girls. And when we were there, we got the news that, in fact, at 8:00 that night, indefinitely, our pool was being closed. And so we saw that coming. And I think that's where we really started. You know, first wave was the emotions of, okay, what does this mean? Because at that point, the games obviously weren't postponed yet. And so we're trying to figure out how do we stay in shape so if Tokyo happens in 2020, we're ready. But then also just now getting down to logistics. So we kind of created a plan. He and his business partner own a CrossFit gym. So I borrowed some equipment from him. I borrowed some equipment from my strength and conditioning training facility that I have here in the cities. And then a family donated they loaned me a Vasa trainer, and Vasa Erg. I'm not sure if you know what those are, but they're like a swim bench per se. It's about as close as you can get to swimming on land. So while it's not water, you can kind of mimic stroke technique, and you can mimic the catch phase of your stroke and the power parts of your stroke. So I've been on my swim bench in the garage. I've posted a few pictures on social media. I taped a black line underneath it so I could hover my black line. And then, you know, we've got a rower, different things for the fitness, the cardio, and strength and conditioning stuff. So we're making do the best we can right now.
Fascinating. Very generous of the people that gave you the.
Yes. Yeah. I have a really awesome community here, and I think that's what makes this all that much more worth it, because I know I'm not alone in the journey whatsoever.
I can imagine your British rivals will be watching this, and they'll be looking up in the yellow pages where to get one of those benches. And away from the training, what are you like in lockdown? How are you getting used to it? Do you find yourself sort of watching particular things, listening to particular things?
Yeah, you know, things are actually staying more busy than I thought they were going to, quite honestly. My husband and I run a business together. We run a social impact agency and production studio. And so while production for us is halted, as well as for many businesses, we have been getting creative with, you know, getting stuff done at home. We've got cameras fired up. We've been kind of learning things, and by we, really, he has been learning things, and then I get to be the subject he learns with. So nothing like testing the strength of a marriage, like, you know, when you're cranking out a workout as the wife, hovering over your makeshift black line, and your husband throws a camera in your face. But we've been having a lot of fun with it, enjoying just kind of slowing down, and I think trying to find those silver linings, if you will. It's hard though some days, because you feel the weight of what's happening in our world, and you know, your heart breaks for the families and communities that have been so devastated by COVID-19. And so there's that. But I think then when you have the moments where you can kind of just isolate in your home and kind of drown out the outside noise, there's also a beauty in being able to just kind of take a deep breath and try to control what you can and enjoy that. So, you know, we've been on Netflix, binge watching shows, and playing around with stuff for the business. So it's been fun. We've managed to keep ourselves actually quite busy.
Great. Well, I'm glad you're getting through it okay, both of you. And obviously we're really looking forward to seeing you back in a pool, and really looking forward to the Paralympics next year as well. Thanks very much, Mallory, for giving me the time to speak to you today.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mallory. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, bye.